evening, everybody, and welcome back to another Gooner Gathering. I am your host, Lee, joined by the poshest man in sports entertainment, Posh Bertie. How are you, sir? So nice to have you back.
I'm tired, from work and everything today, but I had to be here. Our triumphant return on Guna Gathering. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely lovely stuff. And we're also joined by my former colleague at Cannon Chatter. I'm so excited to see you again. Matt Roberts, how you been, mate? You good?
I've been good, yeah. I'm glad to.
Amy, jump in, say hello to everybody. I'm also joined by my daughter. Oh dear, you coughing again?
No, there seems to be everything seems to be passing on to everyone at the moment, but
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I do believe my Amy's little computer that she's been working has just decided, literally on the time that we've gone live, to pack in. So what I'm going to have to do, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Posh Bertie to start the conversation off about the World Cup final, about how it all played out, and I will be right back with you in just a second. All right?
All right.
You have the bridge, Posh.
Okay. So, obviously, the World Cup final was on Sunday between France and Argentina. And I said on social media that the best World Cup I have ever seen deserved the best final I've ever seen. And boy, wasn't it one of the greatest football matches I certainly have ever seen. It was an absolute drama from the get-go, wasn't it, really? Well, maybe not the first half, but in the latter stages, it got quite tense, didn't it?
I think this was the problem: is everyone has hyped it up as the best World Cup final ever, and in fact, I don't think it's even cracking the top five. If I'm honest, the reason is because you have the Messi storyline and things like that, but on the plus side, you had two good teams. You got a France side that have over the last 6 years have shown their dominance over in football. Although they had a really bad Euros going out to Switzerland, but on the face of it, it felt almost like when we got to that semi-finals, it just felt so flat. It almost was like, well, we kind of know who's winning it from here. It will either be France or Argentina, and Morocco were in the semi-final, and they did give it a go, and they could have scored, but it just felt kind of flat. And if I'm honest, if I had to pick a better World Cup final, I would probably pick 2010, 2006. Perhaps even actually, I would have even probably say 2014 was probably better. I wouldn't say 2018 was as good because we all wanted France to win that one because of how it went with Croatia, but it was an interesting final, and very much you saw the difference between the character of Kylian Mbappe and Messi. Messi starting everything off with the penalty, and I think if you notice, Messi has now scored a penalty in all of the all of the knockout stages. So he was on from 0 knockout goals to scoring in every single group stage, which hasn't happened for a long time. But if I'm honest, I'm not impressed with how they've done it. If I'm honest, the way that the Argentines have done it, that them and the Dutch having those arguments on penalties, it was just an absolute horror.
They did struggle against Australia as well in the round of 16 as the second half went into the closing stages.
I just think looking back at the World Cup and then it leads to the final. That final just it might have been grand to some extent, but although we had the stuff in the background, this, that, and the other. I'm sure we don't want to go uncover that. It just felt
we kind of covered that a little bit on a previous stream, didn't we?
It just felt very meh. It was almost like, well, the story's already written. Messi's going to get he's finally get the trophy, and then you've got the issues surrounding that because people complain about the photo of the as well. I'm still not unsure what was that about, but I'd like to know what you guys thought, because I've probably taken a bit more from you guys.
Well, I mean, I certainly enjoyed watching the final. I mean, it was pretty much all Argentina in the first half. We can agree on that. France suddenly got a penalty in, I think, near the 80th minute, and it was okay. This is game on, and straight away we got an equaliser. And we've seen a lot of games like that where a lot of teams have, a lot of shock results have happened. A lot of teams have slipped up the leads, and lots of drama happening. And from extra time, getting a potential goal that was tried to be cleared off the line, and then it was a goal, and then suddenly out of nowhere a penalty to France for handball. It was all over the place. It got exciting, and it was a really exciting final in my opinion. And
I agree with you as well, mate. I mean, and sorry I had to leave you for just a second, but I mean, I think what Matt's getting at is that it went from a game where it looked very much like the game was done and finished, buried, and everything, and it took way up until something like the 70-odd minute or something, when as you mentioned, the
we
French
went into fifth gear.
They managed to find some energy supplies from somewhere. They managed to get the goal back, and then all of a sudden it was game on. But what I don't want to do is go too quickly on how we got from there. I think it's probably quite interesting to go from, if we go sort of from first goal, if you like. If you haven't already, because if you hadn't spoken about it when I was away for just a second.
No, not really. But
you mentioned about Messi scoring penalties, but the first goal, of course, was a penalty to Argentina. Can't remember what minute it was, but it was early on.
Felt relatively early, didn't it? And it was Di Maria who was somewhat tugged back.
And of course, Lionel Messi scoring the penalty to make it 1-0 to Argentina. It was pretty much, as I said, all Argentina in the first half. And I thought the second goal, was a lovely movement from Argentina. The Brighton hero, McAllister,
you're not wrong as well,
the unlikely star in that team, in my opinion. I thought he had a great tournament. He did a beautiful ball to Di Maria, and as cool as you like, a fantastic finish, making it 2-0. And we all thought, it's very much in Argentina's favour. It looks like they've got this. But although if there's one thing we know from this World Cup is that even if you're winning 2-0, it is not over yet, no matter how many minutes go by.
That's the problem, isn't it? Is that with both sets of teams, almost throughout, there was the one team that we could probably say was the team to really beat, and unfortunately they went out early, was Brazil. They didn't really have any real problems. If it was problems, it was at the back where they had Dani Alves playing right back. But I look at Argentina, I thought their defense is weak, their midfield is getting old, and so is their attack. I looked at France and thought okay, Lloris is just Lloris. He's going to end up doing something Spursy at some point in this tournament, and it ended up being the penalty shootout.
We did have a Spurs player doing something Spursy, but sadly it wasn't the French goalkeeper.
No.
Final game, but let's not get into that.
I honestly think he could have turned around to Rashford and turned around and said, "You're taking this penalty, your moment, make it count." And then he just hands him the ball, let him take it instead of him being greedy. He would have got his 54th goal for England.
They're all time top
so he would have broken the record. But
it's an interesting argument. I've got to say, it's an interesting argument.
But just imagine that. Imagine just handing the ball there to Marcus Rashford and saying, "This is your redemption arc. Go and take it." But
I think
it's a strong argument.
You would put your mortgage on Harry Kane to score a lot of penalties, though. That's the thing. He is our best penalty taker, and there have been times where he has scored 2 penalties in one game. I know Panama and France are completely different, but the game against Panama where he scored 2 penalties, I think. But he's done it before, and his penalties have been very good, unless it's against Nottingham Forest, though. But
the difference is
was that the last missed one? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
About it, and instead of just going right, I'll do what I usually do. I didn't feel comfortable with him taking the first one, but when he took that second one, I just thought, you know what, he's going to end up missing this. I know. But I wasn't expecting
it'll be a very England thing to do.
I was going to say, Matt, it's not like you to be pessimistic, is it, mate?
No, it was just I think the wrong thing was said, and I don't know if it's because of the tournament or because I don't really watch as much men's football anymore, but just towards the end, the World Cup just almost felt like it was flat. It would almost run out of energy, and the story almost had set itself up for this grand finale where everyone was expecting supposed to be Ronaldo versus Messi in the final, and it didn't run that way. In the end, it was Mbappe versus Messi, and that I think the problem is we've seen that there are teams that England could have beat. We would have seen could this have been our best possible chance? Perhaps, but it's difficult at the moment to say for certain. Would the team be good enough? The answer at the moment is no, because they went out at the quarterfinals. Considering last time 4 years ago they went out at the semi-final stage, but that final showed that maybe you just need a little bit more luck, like Croatia have had over the last 2-3 tournaments to win by penalty shootouts, but then you've had the fantastic fairy tale of Morocco for a long time, and I think that's going to be an important factor. Like I look back on 2010 and think of Ghana, who almost did it, but the Luis Suarez almost redemption arc for Ghana, that was great to have, I have to admit. But for me, I just overall this tournament, I don't know what it is about this tournament. It just felt maybe it was the wrong time.
Probably because it's in the winter.
Yeah.
Do you know the other thing as well? Yeah, we'll go there a little bit if you like. The fact that the tournament was where it was, with the views in the country which they are, and the difficulty about the whole human rights situation and all that sort of stuff behind it, made it very awkward. I mean, I said this previously when we had Fran on, didn't I? That I was as a content creator ourselves here, it was like, do we cover this? Do we not? It's a little bit of a tricky old situation.
It's a grey area, isn't it? Because you kind of want to share your views, but you can't. You kind of, when something's being held in a country, you kind of have to just respect their rules. It's the same if you were to go on holiday there. You'd have to expect to follow their rules. So, but it's a difficult line when, if they're violating basic human rights or are very prejudiced in their ways, then it comes into question. It is kind of putting you in that grey area, and you've got to think for yourself, is this worth covering? Is it not? Or should we just go over it a little bit, but not all of it? Because then at least then you've shown some sort of interest and you understand the issue. I think a lot of people are just finding it hard to make that balance. And
I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. I mean, there's lots of factors into this sort of job as well, isn't there? In terms of your day-to-day job as well. I mean, you know yourself, and you know when you're balancing everything up, it's really, really difficult. Yes, you want to cover something that's quite important. This is the Blooming World Cup, for goodness sake. But as I said, it does have its difficulties, and I'm not going to evade that subject at all. But what I would like to do is bring it towards talking about the football a little bit, and we mentioned about the game. for whatever reason, seemed to be very. I'd might use the word kind of flat-ish. I know what it means. It almost looked like it was going to go into an eventuality that it was going to be an Argentinian win, and it was going to be very, very easy for them. But
then we then got into the 80th minute or so, and
so Otamendi, it was the former Manchester City defender who committed, I want to call it a foul-ish.
Ish.
What was his name? Kokoremwane, I think, something along those lines. It was if you look at the first penalty where it was given for Di Maria, it was very, very slight contact, but given and VAR weren't in a position to overturn it. And we talked about Kane taking penalties in just a moment ago, right? Mbappe managed to take 3 in the whole 120 plus minutes plus penalties in the one game himself.
Did he score his penalty? I'm sure he scored his penalty as well. So he's all 4 of his goals, even though the last one didn't count. That's 4 penalties he's taken in one game and scored them all.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, it kind of takes the Kane argument about taking the second penalty out of the equation almost, doesn't it? But even so, Mbappe, I think it's only right to give him a little bit of limelight and the composure he scored to take his penalty, and then we'll talk about his second goal in just a second.
I will say, with obviously, yes, the people are saying that this final was all about Messi, etc., but there was the hint of Mbappe's brilliance as well. It did feel like the torch was passed in a way when Mbappe got a hat-trick in the World Cup final, even though France came up short in the end. But I think Mbappe he's going to be a star from now on. I think the torch was definitely passed in that match, if you will.
If you consider how young the kid is as well, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
He's only 2 years older than me.
Is that right?
Just, you know,
unbelievable. I know. Matt, your opinions, please.
Yeah, Mbappe arrived at the 2018 World Cup, and he's just gone from strength to strength from there. He's now got 12 goals in the World Cup overall, which puts him on level terms with Justin Fortain, who actually got 12 in one tournament, which was the 52 edition. No, not 52, 58. Yeah, 58 in Sweden. So to be on the same...
Even I wasn't around then, mate.
To be playing at your second World Cup and to be on that mark is just to show you how good you are. But at the same time, it's the second time he's been in a World Cup final, and it's consecutively with France, which is also a huge deal. Obviously, we all know Mbappe came in through Monaco, played really well in the Champions League, got his move to PSG. But there will always be a question mark over him if he doesn't move away from PSG eventually, because he hasn't got the Champions League, he hasn't got a European Championship, things like that, to make him up there in the same brackets as, you might say, as the modern legends, as a Messi or Ronaldo. It would be, but in this game, Mbappe shows that if you're looking for a striker who can do a bit of everything, the movement, playing up front or either playing on the wing, he can do it. And we haven't talked about that second goal, but that second goal, that flick on, I can't remember who did it now, the flick on, and then he just strikes it first time. Yeah. Phenomenal. That was just fantastic. And
I can talk you through it just a little bit before I deal with some technical issues which I'm having. believe, let me just get it right. For the second goal, let me just try and find it, because it was Mbappe who managed to, I can't remember the 1-2 with, but that the fact that he finished that goal so quickly, so unexpectedly on that first time finish, I think it just took everyone by absolute. Everyone left absolutely aghast by it. To be honest,
this wasn't in the script.
It
was
exactly
reminded me of the things that either Thomas Rosicky would have done, or Lucas Podolski, or even Thierry Henry. They would have just waited for that ball to come down and then just hit it as close to the floor or just before the bounce, and it was such a clean strike. I don't think if you're coaching it, you'll be probably telling people to keep an eye out, just keep doing that over and over, and you'll eventually get that clean strike that you're looking for.
I think you're the first person in the entire world that just compared Mbappe to Thomas Rosicky.
Thomas Rosicky,
fair play, quality players, mate. Absolutely agree with what Matt's saying there.
He's the real goat.
Privileged enough to see him in real life as well. He was fantastic.
Yeah,
but we don't want to take away from what we're talking about. So somehow or another, and as I can tell you, unlike any other stream that myself and Posh has done, my PC has just decided, nope, I'm not going to give you any of the images you've saved. I'm not going to do anything I've asked you to do. So we'll just carry on as is. It's fine. No problems. Somehow we managed to get to the full-time whistle at 2-2. And we're looking like the momentum is with the French side. Somehow.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that very early in the game, obviously they went 2-0 down, and they made the double change with Dembele and Giroud going off literally on about 40-odd minutes. Somehow they managed to find the energy. They got the 2 goals back. Looks like momentum's with them. And then we're into extra time. What are your thoughts just coming into that extra time period?
Well, people were puzzled as to why Giroud was taken off. I heard it was something to do with his knee. He had a knee injury about a day or two before the start of the game, and there were doubts whether he would start. So I think that might have something to do why he was taken off just before half-time. He certainly didn't seem too pleased about it. You may have seen the pictures of him throwing the water bottle circa Arsene Wenger in 2009 against Man United that one time.
He got booked for it as well, mate.
I know. But yeah, the momentum was with France going into extra time. Everything suddenly just reversed in a way. I fancied France to nick it in extra time, but no. Instead, we had a shot. We had a shot that was, I think, saved by Lloris first, and then we thought it was over the line. Suddenly, Messi scores an extra time, and you had the commentators going, "Oh my God, Messi's won the World Cup!" Like, it's not over yet.
Did they not think? Did they forget it was golden goal wasn't a thing at the moment?
Yeah,
I think golden goal's something else now, isn't it?
Got a few more minutes to go, and if this World Cup has taught us anything, it's that it's not over no matter how many minutes are left. You, like, for example, the Netherlands against Argentina when they scored that clever free kick in like the 100th minute, but it wasn't over, and we saw France got another penalty. That came out of nowhere because I didn't notice the handball until the
very
replay.
soft. I thought very soft.
This is strange. This is another unexpected twist in the tale that I can't think of words to describe what I saw ever since France got that 1 goal back. It was just absolute drama from there. And Mbappe scored his second penalty to make it 3-3, and unexpectedly, compared to what went on in the first half, we ended up going to penalties, and as we know, penalties can be a complete lottery, and I'm sure we can talk through the penalties.
I mean, we could do absolutely. What I do want to ask Matt a little bit about, first of all, what did you make of our former goalkeeper Emi Martinez and his shenanigans on the line?
Honestly, he's proven to be the same person he was as he left. He is very arrogant, and it comes across when he's trying to save those penalties. He'll try and do all sorts. I don't like to be a person that says that I'm part of the celebration police, but when you're celebrating your own players scoring
during the game,
during the penalty shootout when it's going on, anything can happen in a penalty shootout. You could end up saving one and then end up missing. It's like you said, Bertie. It's almost a lottery. But the fact is that he shouldn't have been doing that, and he should have actually been booked for doing so because it's unsportsmanship like conduct. But the way he was just he's very cocky. Let's be honest. There's a line of being cocky and unsportsmanship, and he crossed that line, and he did it against the Netherlands as well. Oh, hi, Fran.
Oh, sorry about that. Wrong button. There we go. That's what I wanted to put up.
I wasn't controlling anything. No,
that's all on me. Sorry.
It just goes to show that I think we were right to get rid of him. He thought he was the next best thing, and we've been proven right to get rid of him. And in the end, we've got an Aaron Ramsdale. And to be honest, the way Ramsdale is with the away fans, he's got that cockiness, but he doesn't go over that line. He knows where he stands. And if I'm honest, I think Ramsdale's a better goalkeeper. And we're now hearing that Martinez might end up moving away from Villa, which because Bayern Munich need a new goalkeeper because of a skiing accident.
I heard about this. I didn't hear about the Martinez story though.
If he does go, because and to be honest, I'll be glad he kind of goes, but I'll miss it whenever he misses a penalty, because then he doesn't do those cocky dances and I can't laugh in his face. I was never a big fan of him when he started at Arsenal, if I'm honest. He always gave me a sense of doubt whenever he started. You always knew he was going to concede at some point. And it's just, okay, you're a World Cup winner and a Copa America winner, but you're just not the same player as you was. So, if to be fair, I'm a goalkeeper now, and if I'm doing penalties, I'm focusing on my job. I'm not focusing what everyone else has to do. If I'm doing mind games or anything like that, I wouldn't take part in things like that. I don't know if you guys would, if you were asked to do it, if you were a goalkeeper, would you do the same antics that he was doing on that line?
Oh, no. Mainly because I'm a terrible dancer. But no, I wouldn't do it. Also, you mentioned you're lucky we have Aaron Ramsdale and he wouldn't do stuff like this. Aaron Ramsdale wouldn't dry hump the Golden Glove trophy either. So, yeah.
I'm so glad I changed the image I was going to put up.
Have you seen the photos of him celebrating it with on the tour bus? Apparently, he had a crying Mbappe. You know when Mbappe made that?
Yes, I saw that.
He's got like
I saw that.
I don't know if it's a pillow or he's just like copied and pasted.
It was one of those baby dolls.
Yeah,
he had Mbappe's face on it.
Yeah, I just Ramsdale wouldn't make that sort of thing. If he was to do it, he would do it in like almost more sportingly. Like he would make a joke in an interview or something like that. He wouldn't actually go out and do something like that. Like he might have like a mini Harry Kane match attack card or something like that, and he would say, "Oh, Ben White's got him in your pocket. Ben, what's that in your pocket?" And he just pulls it out, and it's a Harry Kane. It's something like that where it's quite clever, but it's not like over the top. And I think it's for the best that he moved on, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, no, and with all due respect to you, Matt, I've got to say, just thinking as I do about Ramsdale, he loves a little bit of a wind up himself, to be honest,
He
doesn't
is,
he?
but he knows the line. There is a line
Yeah.
you do and don't cross. And
I will say though about Martinez. Yes, I understand that he was incredibly arrogant in during the penalty shootout. You can't deny though that last minute save in the very last kick of extra time was phenomenal, and he has been a great penalty saver throughout this tournament. Yes, he has. His arrogance has shown, but I reckon he has been a great goalkeeper for Argentina this tournament. I'm not going to take that away from him, so I'll say that.
Well, one of the first things Messi did when they won the Copa America was he thanked Martinez, because he knew he was the player that who had basically helped him get his first international trophy. Now, okay, you can have praise like that before, and fair enough, he did make some important saves throughout the tournament. But again, I look at Argentina as that team as a whole. I think they were there to be gotten at, and unfortunately, no one really tested them until the final in France. But even then, you say they only tested them for 40 minutes, including extra time and the last 20 minutes of the first half. So there, but I'm not trying to make it seem redundant. It just feels like I don't know. It's like maybe Martinez is a huge important, but if you take him out of the team, do they have that player that can step up? Perhaps not.
I think that's absolutely fair. Also, let's bring up, it's not the first time he's been involved in a bit of penalty drama as well, is it? Because he won just before he left Arsenal, he helped us win the Community Shield against Liverpool. Not that it has any comparison to the World Cup, but I think it's nice just to mention that.
I've been thinking, what would have the situation been if Bernd Leno didn't get injured against Brighton? Because that led to the rise of Emi Martinez.
Yeah.
And if Leno wasn't injured against Brighton, who knows where he'd be? Would he still be our backup keeper? Would he have gone to another club that's probably not as high profile as Aston Villa? I don't know. I think
great point.
If Leno didn't get injured against Brighton, I think Martinez would not have been the first choice goalkeeper for Argentina in this World Cup.
And you're absolutely right as well, mate, because he'd actually been at Arsenal for an awful long time. It might surprise you to know that he was at Arsenal at youth level at 2010.
Still couldn't get permit for about 5 years, so
that's right.
Going out on loan.
I remember him as a substitute. He didn't come on, obviously, but I remember him on the subs bench in like 2012, where we had a little brief period of time when Vito Manone was in goal for us. And he was on the bench as our backup keeper at the time. And I was like, who's he? I've never heard of him. We're in a goalkeeper crisis. What's going on?
Absolutely.
But
I mean,
now look.
Absolutely. I mean, we mentioned he had several loans out to the likes of Oxford, Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham United, Getafe and Reading before he actually managed to get a run of games and somewhat dismiss the memory. And this is, I spoke just before the camera started rolling. The early memory I've got of Emi Martinez is that crazy game against Reading himself in that Carling Cup game where it was 7-5. That was a crazy old day. So he actually only ended up, he spent 15 games at Arsenal. That's in terms of first team action he spent. I just think that the story he actually had to become Arsenal reserve, the World Cup winner, is something extraordinary. Whether you like Emi or not, you've got to respect his achievement for picking up the trophy there.
And he was good for Argentina in the World Cup with the penalty shootouts and of course that save in the very last kick of extra time, which I thought was very good. Like he stretched his leg out and everything was very good.
Matt, you want to add anything there, or you good?
No, just I'm happy to let you guys talk about it because I've been feeding the negative, you've been feeding the positive, sort of bouncing.
Matt, you know me pretty well. I can be positive in a whole room of darkness. You know me. How about we spend a couple of minutes talking about Messi? How does that sound? There you go. Thank you, Posh. You are so quick off the mark, my friend. Unreal stuff. Finally picks up that World Cup trophy. Finishes the set, if you like. How does this been picking up that World Cup trophy on top of a Copa America trophy, on top of all the honours with Barcelona and everything else along his career? Does that make him the greatest of all time?
I mean, he's definitely up there. Of course, you can say the likes of Pele and Maradona, obviously, but I think Messi is definitely 100% up there. You know, he's essentially completed football, winning league titles with Barcelona, PSG, I think, in the French league, and he's won a lot of domestic competitions in the countries he's played in. He's won Champions Leagues. He's won the Copa America, and he's won the World Cup. He has literally, essentially completed football in a way, and he, you know, he has had, yes, okay, most of his goals were penalties, but he has had a lot of good moments in this World Cup. For example, I think the first goal against the Netherlands, I saw that assist he did. Such brilliant vision without even looking. He didn't age in the tournament. He's 34, maybe older, 34.
34 is right.
Usually a lot of players decline when it comes to that. He did not do that. He was still a phenomenal player then. And you know what? He deserved the World Cup. And I thought, honestly, maybe it's me becoming a bit. Maybe ever since ever since joining a positive Arsenal channel, maybe it's me going a bit more soft. But you know what? I liked it. It was nice to see him win the World Cup finally after all those years.
The audacity, the way he plays his football on the pitch is just incredible for me. He's a one in generational talent.
Yeah.
And I know people are gonna look at himself. They're gonna look at Ronaldo, and they're gonna strictly go through every single blooming statistic and blooming trophy that they will pick up in their lives. But for me, with Messi, certainly from what I see over here in England, with very restricted stuff, and what I've seen over in Spain and now in France, of course, you don't get the controversy necessarily that you might have done with one Cristiano Ronaldo with this man here.
No, and I mean, you know, if you compare Messi's World Cup to the World Cup Ronaldo has, I'd to say it's like night and day might be a bit of an exaggeration, but let's be honest. You know, Ronaldo didn't exactly have he scored one penalty, and that was it. Sure, Messi scored more, but like
That's
Ronaldo, I thought he had a quiet World Cup. He did not make a much of an impact for Portugal when they were 1-0 down against Morocco. When he was dropped, Portugal were running riot against Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think this definitely, if you compare the two, I think the debate definitely ended there. And I think Messi has triumphed there.
I mean, we've spoken about Ronaldo previously.
I know I should be very careful if Fran's watching this because I know she likes Ronaldo.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. But and let's be fair, I admire Ronaldo and his talents for a long old time. But Ronaldo kind of took his club, shall we say, lack of form into this tournament, and then it almost justified. I mean, look at I mean, I think we expected Ronaldo's contract to end at United, and it did. It's rather noticeable that nothing's been concreted at this stage. At the moment, yeah, I know when the transfer deadline day is and everything, and window might be not be open and stuff, but there's no, there's lots of speculation, lots of ifs, there's, and buts. But I kind of stick by what I said on that stream we had with Fran. I think he's done, and that's just me. That's just me. But Lionel Messi finally picks up that big World Cup trophy. Maybe finally gets the accreditation that he probably earns from the Argentinian fans themselves. And it'd be interesting to see what direction he takes in his career now, whether he'll take a step back. Like we said, he is 34 now. Although, ridiculously, isn't it odd that after 120 plus minutes of football plus penalties, it looked like one of the freshest guys on the football field at the end of the game? It's just utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, you wouldn't really see Ronaldo doing that. Well, this year anyway.
Sorry,
Matt.
Someone tried to get in touch with me. This is the problem: is when you're saying the greatest of all time, you're putting them in a category of they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And although Messi has done a lot of that at his early in his career, he hasn't done, for example, the Champions League. PSG have been desperate for that Champions League. They thought Messi was going to be that final piece. If he could get a Champions League this season, I think that caps off an incredible career. And then if he was to go back to Barcelona, for maybe one swan song, then I think a lot of the Barcelona fans would be happy about that. So I think if the problem is, I know I've been a bit negative, but the problem I have with Messi is
you're making me look positive.
Yeah,
that's unheard of.
It's not that.
It's a posh face turn.
Oh my word!
That we've seen on the pitch. Yes, he's brilliant. He's fantastic. He's probably he's the better player than Ronaldo because he's a team player. I've seen clips of things where he's given the ball to Neymar when it was at Barcelona to go and take a penalty instead of Messi taking it. You have that camaraderie that he did have with Luis Suarez and Neymar at Barcelona, and he's also learned from some of the best in the world, the Thierry Henrys, the Puyols, the Samuel Eto'os, Ibrahimovic, and Xavi, Iniesta, and all that. So he feels like he is one of the best. Greatest of all time is difficult because for me, the greatest of all time is Pele. The fact that he was 18 at the World Cup, went on to win it. He started in about 6 of those World Cups, winning 3 of them. It means that he is up there. It doesn't matter about what he's done. You can see the player that he was because he is that boy from Brazil that got it over the line, even if it was only 12 goals altogether that he got in a World Cup overall. But I think Messi's going to go down as one of the modern greats of the game. He'll be. This is always the thing. Obviously it goes to a personal opinion, but the personal thing for me is Pele is such a unselfish person. It comes across. Obviously, he's now a bit ill, but when on his social media, he's always doing something with his community. Whereas I've heard stories behind the scenes of Messi being really mean to Alexis Sanchez, basically saying to Alexis when he joined Bayern, Barca, who the hell do you think I am just to be PG? How do you think you are? Your job is to pass me the ball and I score all the goals. And you saw a bit of that character come out in the Netherlands after the Netherlands.
I think they were all a bit. All those players were a bit.
But
pushy.
That's the thing, is that
certainly got a bit edgy there, didn't it? I know exactly what you're talking about.
The real Messi started to come out a little bit, the nastiness and things like that. That sometimes you don't see as much, but or who is it? Was it? It wasn't Reece Nelson. Someone on the Arsenal side went to. I think it might have been Eddie actually. He went to Ghana on his break to go back to his roots and give something back to that sort of community.
I saw all that. It was amazing stuff. Really good.
That's the sort of thing that people want to associate with the best players in the world. That they're also doing it on and off the pitch. Messi on the pitch was brilliant, and yes, he was probably perhaps the best of all time. But out behind the scenes, perhaps not. Which is the same as Ronaldo. Ronaldo, yes, good player, but we know he's got so much baggage that he'll probably take an aeroplane to bring it back to ground earth. No, I don't know if that makes sense.
I think Ronaldo is certainly a lot more selfish than Messi. I think you mentioned what Messi might have been like behind the scenes. I mean, again, those are all rumors, obviously, but I think Ronaldo, he's never afraid to let his real side come out, if you will, as we saw. I think it was about a month ago with the interview. So
the whole Piers Morgan interview thing really didn't go down well for me. I have to say that, but again, that is just my opinion. Other people around us might think differently. And even today, I'm seeing journalists and people around Twitter linking Cristiano to a move to Arsenal. For me, Match Reaction says it all. It totally contradicts everything that Mikel Arteta is trying to achieve at Arsenal. We'll get into this in just a second. We are an Arsenal channel at the end of the day, and I know with Gabriel Jesus injured right now, and there's a lot of talk in the fan base about Eddie Nketiah. Even people I've shared streams with recently said, look, he's just not good enough for Arsenal. The guy's not had time on the field this season to justify it, but I don't know. For me,
it needs to be consistent. That's the thing.
And how do you get consistency?
Score
and play the minutes on the field. And for me, that's all starts up for Eddie Nketiah against West Ham on Boxing Day. I tell you what, guys, I think it's a really good time to say, are we looking forward to club football coming back, or are we looking forward to club football coming back?
I'm very cautious at the moment because look, all right, here we go. I'm like the Big Show. I turn face, then I turn heel. It's happening again. I am cautious here. We do have an injury with Gabriel Jesus. Yes, he had a bit of a goal drought, but we are going to miss that presence, that creativity that we had. Don't forget, Saka and Martinelli might not be starting, especially the West Ham game. I think they'll still be quite tired from the World Cup. So that's something we need to be very wary of. I hope they are fit enough to start because we need that creativity from both those players. And also we've got the likes of Man City and a very good Newcastle side and Brighton as well. The next few games are going to be very tough. So to just say, it's going to be easy, we're going to walk all those teams, we're going to do very well, that would be a very, very, it'll be a very foolish thing to say. I think we need to just calm down a bit and think, take it one game at a time.
And that's never my style, right? I'm always very respectful, and I'll never say that anybody is an easy opponent. This is Premier League, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Anyone can take anything.
Anyone can beat anyone.
Anybody, right? This is why I think this West Ham game coming up on Boxing Day it's. I mean, it's a home game for a start, right? And it's going to be a raucous crowd at the Emirates. It's going to be a loud stadium, I would imagine. With an Arsenal team that has had, let's be honest. If you look at it, and you're quite right to talk about players that are going to be missing as well. I'm not so sure Saliba will make it. I know he's not played many matches for France.
He's not played a single minute, I don't think.
I think he might have played a tiny bit in the Tunisia
Only
game,
like
Oh,
4 or
okay.
5 minutes. It wasn't long, was it?
but I would imagine we'll probably. Actually, this is probably a good time to mention it. If we're going to sort of move on to the West Ham a little bit, we could talk about who we might speculate and who might start a little bit, if you like. And for me, I'd be very surprised if we deviate from Ramsdale made his comeback for Arsenal against Juventus on Saturday. I know it was 2-0 defeat. I won't dwell on that too much because it counts little more than a friendly and a bit of a run out. I would imagine
it was nice to see the old Xhaka back though.
better in a friendly than the Premier League game, right?
Yes.
Let's be fair. It was, I know I won't dwell on it too much, but it was, it wasn't the best performance. Okay, I'll just very, very quickly say it was one of them games where we had an awful lot of the ball, but putting the ball in the net looked difficult, and that's the argument we getting a striker, the Eddie Nketiah argument, or another striker argument, which I know I'm not going to go into right now, because we can't get another striker until January anyway. So we have to deal with what we have to deal with right now. But in terms of lining up against West Ham, I would be very surprised to see something any different than Ramsdale on goal. Probably Tierney at left back, probably.
Yeah.
Because it seems like Zinchenko's got a bit of a problem. Don't know the ins and outs of it, but he's certainly not been anywhere in the Dubai Cup. He's not seen any action at the Emirates. So I'd imagine we'll see him there with probably Holding. Probably Gabriel, who's obviously didn't play in the World Cup because he didn't get called up. Right back position, Ben White is back playing up with Arsenal. I think we're all delighted to see that. Have we got any arguments on the goalkeeper and back four?
I'm just trying to see if we've got any injury updates or anything like that. But
Reece Nelson, I heard, had a bit of a problem, which is going to be interesting because with Saka potentially being tired, and Reece Nelson, who on the top of my head is our only viable backup for him, is now injured. Where's this going to be? Are we going to get Marquinhos playing on this area, or
just my opinion on the Saka thing? I reckon you'll come straight back into the 11. We'll go for the 3 in midfield probably. I would imagine we mentioned Salaba's not had many minutes. I reckon he'll be in the matchday squad, certainly.
Yep. Odegaard will start.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
I'd imagine it would be the front three the midfield three of Partey, Xhaka, and Odegaard.
Yep.
I wouldn't imagine we'd stray from that. Just the defensive wise, it depends on what how Tommy Arsenal and Ben White are feeling. Because if they're not
feeling, for me, Tomiyasu probably be benched. Ben White probably starts.
Come on as well.
For me, because I don't see him starting Cedric because there's a lot of talk today about Cedric leaving the club.
Yeah, that's come about very oddly.
But then it wouldn't be a massive surprise, would it? I mean, he's struggled to feature in minutes.
I do like Cedric, but
so
unfortunately, when you're not getting any minutes, you kind of have to move on. And it's a bit of a shame, but obviously a lot of the fans don't feel like very attached to him either. So it's almost like a
I was never
goodbye.
I was never particularly attached to him, in my opinion. But you know, he had his moments, but I think he didn't stand out from the rest of the squad, if you will. I think that's my best way of saying it.
His debut scoring against his former club. That was that, and I know he scored a few more.
Actually,
it sort of helps fans get on side, but obviously because of Tomiyasu and now Ben White, he's just falling apart. Not falling apart. He's just falling away sideways, and he needs to be playing somewhere. And he missed out on the Portugal squad because of that.
He just became. I think. Yeah, you're right. He did score against his old club. He scored a brilliant goal, and I think after that, especially last season, he just became another another guy in
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I think that's
team,
probably
if you
fair.
will. Probably like, I don't think it's a big loss if he goes.
I mean, we're talking about a Premier League player. It's been around a while. He's got a bit of experience, but he probably deserves more than getting the odd minute off the bench. I mean, it very much depends. If one goes, for me, maybe someone else comes in, but who knows on that one? I don't really want to spend my time talking about Cedric because as we mentioned, we do have likes of Tomiyasu who quite happily will go into a right back position. There are others in the squad that have taken the trip to Dubai and everything that probably could step up from the under-21 side as well.
You wanted to talk about the front three, didn't you? Sorry.
Yeah,
buddy.
well, yeah, absolutely. No, it's fine because this is a very loose kind of Arsenal chat itself. It's a very relaxed kind of stream, which is probably kind of the very best that I like doing, to be honest. Just to complete on what my thinking is, I'd probably look at Martinelli. Yeah, I definitely think he'll come back in. Yeah, I think Nketiah are probably playing. Yeah, I think probably Saka will play as well. With the likes of Marquinhos, who's actually been really quite good when he's played some minutes. He will certainly get probably prime positions, probably first off the bench, because the likes of, like we mentioned, Reece Nelson looked like he picked up a hamstring injury against Juventus on Saturday. So I don't see him coming into that squad. It's unfortunate for him because it would have been an opportunity for him to get into the squad. But I don't know. I always felt that with Reece, it might be difficult for him, and it looks like another obstacle in his path.
Is there any news on Emil Smith-Rowe coming back?
So I do have a little bit of news on that one. That's a great question. I do know he hasn't gone on the field yet. He's not had any of the, shall we call it pre-season, kind of middle season friendlies. I know he's had one or two setbacks since Dubai. I know that much, but I do know they are expecting him to come back into full training soon. But as I seem to have said for most of this calendar year, actually, since I started doing this YouTube thing, it seems like with him, you have to wrap him up in cotton wool and be a little bit careful with him. But I do feel he's going to have a massive impact with squad depth being that they are. He will feel. We haven't seen Smith-Rowe since September.
Yeah,
my feeling is that when he does come back,
it's giving me very Jack Wilshere vibes when you said wrap him up in cotton wool, and we haven't seen him since September. And I was like, no, don't let Smith-Rowe be Jack Wilshere 2.0. We can't do that. But
I really hope not.
That Jack Wilshere is with the under-18s at the moment, managing them, and his experience is if you're being overplayed, you're going to get injured. I would thought those sort of lessons that you pass on to your current players as well, not in the meta first team. You don't want. This is the problem I have, is that Saka has been basically playing 90 minutes non-stop for the past potentially 3 years, and because of that, there's no one that. Well, we do have backup.
Reece Nelson, we've realised.
Well, not just Reece Nelson. You can also have Marquinhos there that can play on both wings.
And Vieira.
Vieira is also, but again, Vieira's not been.
Vieira's a midfielder. He's not really a winger, isn't he?
He's not really had that
he
chance.
He can play there, but it's not a default position, if you will.
Yeah. But these are the sorts of things that you kind of have to learn your lessons from. And if you're overplaying someone, you kind of have to ask, why are you overplaying someone? And because you're giving them a huge chance of being injured, especially now Saka is targeted game after game. In the that's the World Cup, he was targeted. In the Premier League, he was targeted. Even when he was playing in the Europa League, even watching the highlights because I don't have BT, he was targeted. And these are the things. If every time you go down, it could cause an impact injury, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit later on. But I just want to see him if he does end up playing. I'd rather turn around I'd rather see him to come off at like 60 minutes so that he gets a nice rest and that he can relax and things like that. But I see it all the time when we come back to against West Ham. There's going to be that fatigue or almost undenying. You know, when you got almost like a back to pre-season when it's first game of the season sort of idea where you're still trying to find your rhythm, but because we've had that little bit of a break, we kind of have to find that rhythm as quickly as possible. I don't know. I haven't seen the highlights or anything for the game against Juventus, but I saw the results that we won the Dubai Super Cup. You'll never ever sing that. But that if you've mentioned about Eddie as well, and if he is to step up, he needs to step up now because there is no other striker in the squad. Floren's gone away to Reims. You've got no other backup in the squad because Jesus is now injured. Something I would have liked to seen in the summer was a striker come in, but he said no, we'll stick with what we got, which is fair enough. But now you've got about 3 months of Eddie, and then if he gets injured, who then takes his place up front? You're in a 50-50 situation where you're going to have to now look at your options and assess who would be able to fill that gap of being the next striker almost. But
we'll have to go with the Championship manager style 4-6-0. It's
the old false 9, right?
Before I forget, I did hear an interesting rumor. Sorry. The Sunderland striker Rod Stewart,
right?
Not Rod Stewart. Something.
He's a singer, isn't he?
Ross Stewart, who plays for Sunderland. I think. I don't know what's happened there, Lee. But basically, we were looking to sign him for 10 million from Sunderland. He's got 6 months left of his contract at the moment.
Let me just welcome Mrs. Meadows back into the flat after her shift at work. Hello. She's alive, she says. She survived the day in retail, everybody. Let's give her a clap. There she is. Mrs. Meadows is in the house. Right. So, yeah. Oh, no, I hadn't heard this one. I did hear another sort of interesting sort of championship rumour about strikers and everything. Former Arsenal striker Chuba Akpom. I read a journalist who'd done a little piece on him on ITV on their social media. So maybe we should go. We'd do an awful lot worse to try and sign him up. But I thought, well, no, I don't think so. I think we need to be looking in other directions from there. But there you go. I am rather distracted by the missus coming in. She's rather earlier than I thought you'd be, to be fair.
I will double check this name because I sent it into it.
Fair enough. But I don't think we can stress enough. I don't think when we see the Arsenal take the field on Boxing Day, I don't think we're going to see a very fluent side because I don't think they've really had an awful lot of time together. I would like, and I'd urge any of our supporters who may be watching us here now or on a demand stream that be a little bit patient and do not be surprised to see a good old-fashioned 1-0 to the Arsenal at the end of the game, because I think it's going to be one of them really tight games. It could get a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
Does this sort of scream to you a nice classic Boxing Day fixture? Like you kind of get over the Christmas blues a little bit and you've got something to look forward to again. West Ham are a great side at the moment, although they are sort of struggling a little bit. But it's got that feel of, because it's just after Christmas, it's going to be a great game because of everything that's gone on.
Yeah, I rather feel like that. I think we could get an awful lot worse fixtures to jump into. I certainly feel, I believe Newcastle will be coming up next on the cab rank, and
It's gonna
that
be
is going to be a heck of a
That's
difficult
gonna
task.
be- yeah. Is that St James's Park?
I think you might be right, mate.
God, I'm that's.
We'll worry
Yeah.
about that in a couple of weeks' time. Shall we?
We'll take care of that in the future.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be just like one of our standard streams,
Two
mate.
for
Everything's going to be
Almiron, and that'll
absolutely
be
fine.
fine.
Newcastle at home.
I was at home.
Third.
Yeah,
But we've
yeah,
got
absolutely.
New Year's Eve, so
Mm.
that's
There you
another
go.
thing as well, is
The
the
missus is making an unintentional debut on screen here.
Oh, another run in.
Yeah, another run in. I know. The second run in of the stream. Unbelievable scenes.
No.
And I'll just divert just for a second because I see a little bit of a mini surge in the viewer count. So anyone who's jumping in and saying, having a look and see what we're about, welcome in to Gooner Gathering. Hi. Don't be afraid to say hello and give us a like, share, subscribe, and do all that sort of stuff. We don't bite. Not really. Only after dark, anyway. But
yes, I was going to say about the travel at the moment, the travel for the game, because we've had the strikes and everything else. That's kind of caused a bit of issue, and we've heard that there's going to be more strikes towards our sort of end of Christmas, New Year's.
Right,
going to happen. Is this something that kind of worries you if you were to be able to get tickets even for those games?
I mean, I don't get tickets to these games, so
if you manage to get tickets,
yeah, well, it will depend if a strike happens during on the day of the match, and if it is actually going to affect me.
So, if, for example, the game against West Ham, I think that there is strike action, not just on the tube, but throughout UK wide. I don't know, on the trains. So then it is a bit difficult for people to get tickets, because a lot of people would have got those for as Christmas presents. Actually, I do have a nice little story for you. One of my favourite Arsenal games was against Portsmouth out on Boxing Day. How long ago was this? 2000. I'm going to say it's 2008, 2009 sort of season, because maybe even the year after.
Tony Premier League.
Yeah.
Tony Adams, manager.
Yeah. And he got a huge reception, and it was a great game to go to, because not only because of the atmosphere and things like that, but it was a really nice game, and going on the train journeys and things like that. And it's a bit of a shame that now these sort of journeys are being cut short because we're having train strikes and everything like that. Okay, fair enough. Train strikes.
As someone who works in the events industry, it affects me tenfold as well. So
it happens. But it just feels like, imagine having that ticket and then being told at the very last minute that you cannot go. I have been in that situation, actually. My second game actually was against Sunderland, and there was trainer. No, there was a fault on the train, and we had to jump off the trains and get buses because of the
goodness,
all the way to the Emirates, and we only just got there in time. And it is one of those things that makes you kind of second guess, is it worth going to? There's Arsenal fans across the country that will want to go into that game.
Yeah,
Boxing Day feeling.
I think a lot of people, a lot of the fans will be getting these tickets to be a bit worried, and they're going to find it difficult. I've been in this position myself when I've gone up to a game. I've had to walk from King's Cross to the Emirates before. That was a heck of an experience. But
how long did that take you?
It might have taken over an hour, but because there was a little group of us, it was a little bit easier. And when I do get up to there, I do make sure I give myself plenty of time. I do like to pay homage to the old lady at Highbury as well. So, but be that as it may, yeah, very, very difficult arrangements for anybody coming from, especially from your part of the world as well, Matt. If you're travelling, you're up in Merseyside, aren't you? Is that right? Roundabouts?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
that's causing chaos as well. It's I know we'll talk about it later on, but the last game at the Emirates I went to was a 5 o'clock kickoff, and the last train back to Liverpool was 6:30, and I completely missed it and didn't get back until 1 o'clock in the morning. Whereas
Oh my goodness.
someone else that I knew, she was going on the train. She only lives in the Midlands. She didn't get back until 4 o'clock in the morning because of issues. So,
Goodness me, that sounds a traffic nightmare. Absolutely.
but at the very least, we can enjoy it on Amazon.
Absolutely, that is very true. Would that last game you would have seen at the Emirates possibly be a WSL or probably a Champions League game?
It was a WSL game.
Which one was it? Was it the United game?
Yes.
Which would have been the game that Beth Mead picked up her nasty ACL injury.
I knew there was a segue coming.
You know me very well, Posh. You know me very well. So not only do Arsenal have to deal with Beth Mead's nasty injury, literally, as Vivianne Miedema has just made a comeback. One of the very reasons I've got Mr. Matt Roberts with me here today is because his knowledge of the ladies' football is just second to nobody. He's just absolutely right up there, way beyond anything I can talk about. Miedema came back after a little bit of a break. Come back, she was in tremendous form. Scored a wonderful goal against Juventus in the Champions League. Scored a winner against Everton, if I'm not mistaken, just recently.
Yes.
And unfortunately, Miedema has picked up almost an identical injury to Beth. Where does that leave us as the Arsenal ladies team, mate?
So just for clarification, ACL is I always, when I try and do this, so just imagine. Oh, hold on, might have to move the camera a little bit. So I try not to do this with my middle finger, but imagine this is your knee,
I'm
and you're running.
Put you full screen, mate.
It does move along with it. So if you're bending, it bends with it.
Yeah.
But what Beth did in the United game was that when she went, she was touched, and then it's almost like it's twisted.
Yeah.
Now an ACL cannot cannot be mended. It has to be surgically redone. And whereas with Viv, what Viv was doing, she was outstretching, so she would have maybe outstretched it, and it would have snapped. It wouldn't have been the same as Beth's, but it would have completely just gone. So it almost feels like a pull. So there's different ways that it can be done. Hence, it's a similar injury to what Jesus has, but Jesus would have been like it might have been more muscular than ACL. The main problem with an ACL injury with women is that it has happened a lot. Now, if I was to give you a huge idea on it, there has been 42 injuries throughout the entire year revolving women playing football and ACLs at the professional level. 5 of those have made the Ballon d'Or list.
Right.
So that's just to show you how much of a problem it is at the moment. And the problem is Beth Mead she sort of showed it for England. She's shown it for Arsenal for an entire year. That if you were to give a year to anyone, Beth Mead would be the person of the year. And funny enough, she is now Sports Personality of the Year candidate for tomorrow. So, but she took everything that she did in last year, and she just excelled. That has come from tutelage under both Serena Weidman and Jonas Eidevall, and she's just not just been able to create goals, she's been scoring for fun, and that sort of creativity against the Manchester United was then missed. But the problem I do have with that is because she was being overplayed, and because she was being overplayed, because she wasn't being substituted or anything like that, because the women's team have a shorter team than the men would do. The men usually have 25. The women only have about roughly up to about 20, unless you're Chelsea, you just cherry pick whoever you want. And eventually something had to give, and eventually it just happened to be Beth goes in to try and win the ball, and her ACL goes. Whereas Viv would have been very frustrated with how her year's gone. She she did really well. She came back. She signed the Arsenal contract. She said she wanted to play in a new position in behind the striker, which allowed Stina Blackstenius to step up and try and score all the goals. Viv made a huge impression with Stina because they were just almost intertwined with each other, scoring goals or creating or setting up for each other. Viv has been a huge advocate for mental health as well. We saw that during the off season. She does have, well, during her spare time, she has a column and things like that where she writes for a Dutch newspaper. But during the Euros, she got struck down with COVID, and she was then told in the next game where the Netherlands did qualify against France she was playing. She was starting, and she finished for the hunt for the all of extra time as well. So that didn't help her out. And then she had the break. She comes in. It was almost like she's getting fatigued. That's why she took the break and wasn't playing for so long. And then because she wasn't playing, she comes back after the Leicester game and she decided not to go away with the Netherlands national team. And she ended up coming back full force. She's feeling herself again. And when as an Arsenal fan, when you know you've got something good and you feel, they're back to their best, they're going to go on this run of form now and carry it on. That was what was happening with Arsenal. Arsenal fans were quite happy. Okay, we were only winning 1-0 and Viv was scoring the goal, but they were important goals that would have been huge. And to lose that now, where Viv wants to be a creator and a part, and she has got a hell of a shot on her as well, but a lot of the women do. It now has limited options. Just to put it into perspective, Arsenal's front line, if we almost have a 4-3-3, so you have your back line of Manu Zinsberger, it's Steph Catley on the left, either in between Lotta Wubben-Moy and Leah Williamson, or you have Rafaela Souza. Both Rafaela and Leah Williamson have both been injured at the same time, so Steph Catley has had to move into centre back at times, and Katie McCabe's ended up having to play on the left as a left back.
Did really well in centre half as well, didn't she, Steph?
Yes, Steph Catley has actually been one of my favourites this season, but the way she crosses, I always like the analogy where if she was a post woman, she always delivers. It's just fantastic to see how good she's doing.
First class delivery, that one, mate. Very good.
Yeah. Cheers. It's and then on the right hand side, it used to be Noelle Moritz, but Laura Weinreuter, hell of a great player. She's stepped up this season, and especially after a great Euros performance. So that's your back four, and then we've had again a bit of problems with the midfield because you had a little bit of injuries. You'd have Kim Little's now currently injured, but on her way back.
I think she's coming back now, isn't she? I think she was on the bench last game.
She's on her way back, but she's not fully there. There is rumours that
Jordan Nobbs as well.
Jordan Nobbs is fine. It's just she is getting minutes now, which is good to see. Yeah. She is fully on the mend, because I remember when we did that chat along when that happened. That was frightening.
That was one of their moments, wasn't it? It was an odd moment where we're like, goodness me, this looks very serious, doesn't it? Yeah, and it was just nice to see she's got back on the field, isn't it?
Yeah. Just to go through the midfield, you have Leah Volti, my favourite player.
It took you an hour and 20 minutes to say that.
And it is very limited midfield at the moment, because you imagine now that a trio is kind of hard to imagine who you put into the midfield because Kim's not there. We've ended up having Jordan, Viv, and Leah. Now there's been talks of Leah Williamson now moving into midfield like she did when Viv had that injury against Lyon. Yeah. It's difficult to judge who's going to be playing where, if I'm honest, because we've got a game tomorrow. That's the 5:45 game.
The WSL.
No, it's the Champions League game against Europe. We win that, we top the group, which will give us.
So there'll be Caitlin Ford and Blackstenius probably playing up front, and there's a young lady in reserve, isn't there? I can't remember her name. You'll have to help me there, mate.
Caitlin Ford will probably be on the left. Oh, well, it'll either be Ford on the right and Katie McCabe on the left.
Yeah.
And then Stina up top, or you'd have perhaps Lena Hurtig making a return after her little injury.
I knew there was a name I was forgetting. Thank you, Matt.
It's
why you're here, mate.
There is one other person that could potentially play, but unfortunately she's not getting the minutes, and that's Manaru Ibuchi. For whatever reason, I don't know why she's not getting enough minutes. And if I'm honest, with the January window open and a World Cup 6 months down the line, I'd be tempted to say, as much as I love you and I'd like to keep you, try and find somewhere else to go, because you're an amazing player, and she's a great player to have in your team because she likes to occupy. I'm trying to think of a men's player that would be similar. I wouldn't.
Difficult, isn't it, mate? I know what you're saying. She's a one-of-a-kind talent, really, isn't she?
Yeah, she's really good at what she does. It's just trying to find someone that I can sort of relate to in the men's game, and that's kind of difficult. I'd say Odegaard, sort of like Odegaard. Yeah. Odegaard occupies certain pockets to release other players. That's how Mana likes to be in those pockets, to make sure that she's being creative and being able to get into that. Get into opportunities. She's had some fantastic games, and if she does end up leaving in January, I wish her all the best, because she's been a fantastic servant. It's just a shame that hasn't worked out at Arsenal. But if she goes somewhere, if I'm honest, she's going to want game time, and I think it's going to be difficult to say who. But you want to talk about attacking options that might bring into a January window.
Yeah.
There are a lot of rumours going around, and funny enough, it's two people that I actually know who have started these rumours. I don't know if they're true or not, but the one player that they're looking at is called Debina of Brazil, who is currently a free agent after a spell in the US for the last 5 years. She's probably one of the most creative players. I think her output is something like I think it's roughly around seven assists and like 4 goals in the previous season in the American leagues. And then you have a player that we have been linked with for a while. Unfortunately, she ended up signing a contract with Ajax and playing against us in the Women's Champions League qualifiers. Victoria Pelova, who had a fantastic Euros as well.
The name's familiar with me, actually. I do remember that name.
She wasn't able to bring that joy and that against Arsenal, but that talent is there. We've seen it for the Netherlands, but the problem is she's got another 6 months left. Apparently, she's still studying. Is that going to be a problem? It's whether or not she wants to make the move now or in the summer, but then you're basically guaranteeing her at least a minimum of 8 months of first team football before Beth Mead comes back.
Yeah.
Or if you were to play in an attacking midfielder, that's 9 months. That's 9 months guarantee. So it does make sense. It's just a case of if it goes ahead. But at the moment, they've only got the game against Zurich before that, and then I would imagine if we do bring any of those players in, they would be in within the first 10 days, because on the 15th we play Chelsea at the Emirates.
That'd be a massive game, especially where the table is as well, isn't it?
It's a huge game. So for those that are interested, the Arsenal currently second in WSL. We are 3 points behind Chelsea at the moment, but Chelsea have played that game in hand because of the weekend that the WSL was meant to start. Arsenal were meant to play Man City, and the Queen died. So it was a bit unfortunate that it happened, but instead that's now being played in February. So everyone's sort of playing catch up. West Ham played Chelsea, I think a couple of weeks after that, and it just went from there. But it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Obviously, see how they do. Again, is seeing how they come back after the break. Last time they went out after the break, they ended up playing Birmingham. We thought, oh, this will be a nice game. I thought to myself, this would be a nice game. It's going to be. If we're going to see something special. Leo Volti ended up getting injured in the warm up, and we ended up losing the game 2-0. And people complain that that's how we lost the title when it was so close. It wasn't down to just one loss. It was down to complete other results just in the end, and that's how tight the WSL is. Just to put it into perspective, the league was basically lost by 2 points. No, not 2 points. 1 point last season. That's how tight it was, and I would imagine it's going to be even tighter this season.
If I recall, a very important game against Birmingham City is the one where it all went very, very wrong.
I again, like I say, it wasn't just that. We were getting.
But it was part of it, wasn't it?
And things like that, where we were expected to win and things like that. But everything that we can sort of accept that. Okay, we came second, fair enough. But Chelsea really didn't deserve the trophy that year, to be honest. And we were looking to kick on, and with these 2 injuries now, everyone's got almost sort of had that defeatist defeatist mentality, because 2 of the best players that we have had in the last year have both gone down injured, and it's a real to put it into perspective. It would almost be like if we lost Saka and Jesus, because no one's there to replace Saka at the moment, and no one's there. Well, you can argue who replaces Jesus at the moment, but it's important that over the next couple of weeks that they get together. They've got one last game tomorrow, then they've got a huge break, and the break's going to do them a world of good. So hopefully from there it will be better come the 15th.
Fantastic, Matt. Thank you very much for your insight. That's exactly what I've got you here for. And I do believe we have got our first comment of the evening. Literally just come in as I was going to sign out. Let me see if I can say, oh, it's Niall. Hello, mate. It's nice to see you here. A regular viewer from our Cannon Chatter days. It's nice to see you back here. It's lovely to have you in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the things, all the buttons, all the time. So cheers for all of that. I suppose before we wrap things up, there's 2 things I want to do. I want to get predictions for the Boxing Day game for the men's side against West Ham, and then I'll ask you both to give out your socials, and then we'll call it a night, because I need to say proper hello to Mrs. Meadows, who's been at Tesco Towers since 12 o'clock this afternoon. And so Matt, you're our guest. You go first.
Okay, so mine is at MattLR28 on Twitter.
And your prediction for the West Ham game, please.
I'm gonna go. I have a feeling it's going to be 1-0. But I think Arsenal are going to score it. I don't know why. I think Eddie Nketiah is going to score it.
Yes.
Shush a few of the haters. To be fair, I've been.
Niall, I like that. Niall, our commenter, I really like that.
Do it against West Ham, then fair enough.
Fantastic stuff. So, Bertie, mate, your prediction, please, for the West Ham game.
My Twitter first. You can follow me on Twitter at PoshBertie, and my prediction is 2-1 to the Arsenal. I don't know who exactly is going to score, but we're going to win.
Fantastic stuff. For what it's worth, and I'm going to stick with my gimmick here as well. I'm going Eddie Nketiah hat-trick. Yeah, ridicule me all you want. I don't care. And you can find me on Twitter at Gooner Limage. You can find us here at Gooner Gathering on Twitter. Matt Roberts, thank you very much for making your debut with us today. It's been lovely to having you on again. And anyone who's been watching it either now or on demand later on, thank you very much for being here. Take care, everyone. We'll see you after Christmas. Take care all. Thank you.